Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to the 17th episode of the Untethered podcast. I'm so excited. I'm full of beans. I'm full of energy. It's so just like today's episode. I really want to take you on a beautiful journey and a beautiful activation and a beautiful calling forward because one of the things that I absolutely love is legacy work and the legacy, dropping into legacy, talking about cosmic currency and how that translates and universal laws and principles and showing up in your divine authentic self and connecting to the divine wealth code so that abundance can flow and you feel on purpose and you live the life of your dreams. It all sounds really wonderful. It all sounds exciting because I feel like my journey as the spiritual accountant has been the initiation into my own legacy, the anchoring into that for divine wealth. And now I feel being able to share this with others. So for those of you who feel you're in a bit of a grind, your business feels a bit stagnant, or you're faced with some different choices. You're not sure whether to take this opportunity or that opportunity, or you feel like you're in that work, swapping time for money system, and you really want to break free of that and you don't know how. And honestly, my work starts and ends with legacy. It always comes back to legacy, whether you're going down financial sovereignty paths or whether you're, experiencing the beautiful Oracle deck or financial management. It all really comes back to you and your legacy. So today I want to really drop into this and it's exciting. So let's start with those little nudges, right? So this is, for spiritual conscious business owners. For me, it starts and it ends with legacy, but for those who are still trying to figure out what their legacy is, what the next move is. And I think this is a really important, because a lot of people, spiritual, conscious, awake, aware, enlightened humans, they're tapping into their intuition, and whether you're just tapping into it now or you've been playing with those intuitive nudges for years, like it doesn't matter where you're at. I think the biggest thing here is you need to be able to palpably feel what those nudges are, right? Because I think what's happening right now with the consciousness on the planet is we have, our consciousness and there's collective consciousness, there's oneness consciousness. And if you can think about it like this, the consciousness of the planet is raising. There's nothing that we can do to stop it or to speed it up it's just happening. It just is. And with this consciousness comes like these little ideas, these little seeds. I call them seeds that are planted. And when you get these ideas or these opportunities or these nudges or these things, when they land for you, like they're not just landing for you. You got to understand that this is the collective consciousness and those seeds are being planted everywhere. So the more you can tap into yourself and the truth of who you are, and then translate these nudges and translate the language of the universe, of soul, and then listen. It's more than listening, right? It's listening and translating and then taking the action that feels as the move towards the greater good. Because that's essentially what we're all working towards is it's the greater good for humanity and for all. And we won't go too ultralistic, but I feel there's a lot of people out there when you're transitioning from the old way of doing business and finances and you're wanting to step into that new paradigm and align to your highest truth and your greatest mission and your grandest purpose. There is a process of like learning who you are at a soul level, not who you are, not the identities, but the truth. Like I always say that the most important day of your life was the day that you were born. The second most important day of your life is the day when you learn why. So, your soul, like if we look at souls, right, every single soul on this planet Earth is here for the same reason. And I'm gonna just blow the lid off this for everyone. I'm gonna ruin it for everyone. I'm gonna tell you your soul purpose. Everyone's soul purpose is the same, and it's love, right? To experience love. Your soul came here to experience love in all its forms, right? And if we look at the emotional spectrum, if you look at the spectrum, it's all how close or far away from love are you? And it's not that one is right or wrong, it just is, but it's the dance between all of those emotions and feelings and experiences. And we just came here to experience all of it, love in all of its forms. And what is different though, from soul to soul, is the expression of that love. So, how I express love, how I give and receive love is different to how anyone else would give and receive love. And when you're looking at soul purpose in a professional sense, in a career sense, in work sense, I believe that much of this earth's ascension is happening through business. It's happening through business because this is how we get to reach. This is how business and commerce is a tool for raising consciousness. So when we can step into our business as a conscious being, as a reflection of love, and we connect to our truth, the truth of who we are, our expression, our unique expression, and we amplify that, then that's when we become the beacon for everyone else. We become, we've all got beautiful roles to play. So when you're uncovering your soul's mission and your soul's purpose, and you're learning how you express love, how you give and receive it, and then we're reshaping our leadership in that. So I feel that a lot of people go through that ascension path and that spiritual journey and that awakening, but for those who are in business or those who are in creation of the new paradigm, that happens through business. When we start creating the products and the services that uplift humanity and serve humanity in bigger ways. That is the new paradigm. So we all have roles to play in that. And I feel that when you're connected to the divine wealth code, the cosmic currency of all of this, human energy is the most valuable resource on the planet Earth. And we were all taught from such a young age that we should be swapping time for money. No, we swap out energy for money, right? It's human energy, it's human resources. So when you're going through that ascension path and we're in business, we're looking at what our unique value is. We have our soul's expression, but we have our soul's value as well. And your soul's value is a range of things, but it's what you bring to the world. It's your knowledge, it's your intellectual property, it's your skills, it's your talents, it's your passions, it's who you are. And when you mix all of these things together and tie it in, wrapped around business, this is where you can tap into higher levels of wealth, higher levels of currency. Yes, it might translate in dollars in the bank account, but it can translate into other forms of exchange as well. So there's a beautiful connection, I believe, to the ascension of the planet and business right now. And I think it starts with, that little nudge of knowing that you are here for more, or you're here for something different than what you're currently doing right now. And even though you don't know what that is, it's just holding on to that little feeling, that little nudge, that little light, I call it, the little flame, the little spark, the little seed that has been planted. And maybe we've got the seed and we don't know what the seed is. And we don't know what the plant is. Is it an apple tree, or is it Is it a tomato bush? Like what is, but if you think about it, right, when we have these seeds for business, it's a business, right, that contributes to consciousness. And we plant that seed. Are we growing that apple tree to have the apples for ourselves? Or are we growing that apple tree or that farm of apple trees? I'm not sure the correct terminology for it. If you've got an apple tree farm, feel free to reach out and let me know. But are we growing that farm of apple trees for who? Who pulls the apples from the tree and eats them? Sure, we will take apples for ourselves and for our family and provide for our family first and foremost. But when we have the overflow, we naturally want to give, that's for the community, right? So you might not know what that seed is right now, but you might have one, might have a seed and you might feel it in your heart space or in your solar plexus or deep in your womb. It's just a knowing. And that's where it starts. It starts with the knowing. So there's a difference between an idea and a knowing. And I feel like there's a lot of people getting a lot of seeds and they're putting them in their pockets and they're never planting them. Or there's a lot of people who are getting a lot of seeds and they're trying to plant all of them at once. That can be really tiring. Let's just pick one seed, and focus on that seed and plant it. Because when we plant that seed, ooh, and we nurture it and we look after it, like you might be amazed by the results. If I look back at my legacy and when the seed was planted for myself, like I had no idea where I was going to end up. I just knew that what I was doing was not working and I was unhappy and I was burnt out and I was financially broken. I had nothing. I had nothing. I started from below zero, bankruptcy. When I was in that space of, I had no idea what was coming. I was bankrupt. I had very minimal money coming. I went from making really good money to nothing, nothing. Everything fell away. It was like I went through this spiritual catalyst that, and it just took absolutely everything away from me. And I think it was also because I was going through so much emotional turmoil. I didn't even have the capacity to start creating or start the next thing or move into a new thing. And I just went into like healing mode. Right? I just went into my spiritual healing, my emotional healing. I just focused on raising my two beautiful children and I was in survival, right? Making just enough money to survive. That's it. Nothing more, no extra. Like I was bare minimum, single mom, two babies, focusing on my healing and surviving. And I think the biggest thing was I had to fully surrender to that. After a whole life of always doing, always achieving, always accomplishing, I was always studying, building business, and just, I'm a bit ambitious. It's hard to get me to sit still for very long. ADHD brain. But I think the biggest part of this is the recognition of, okay, well, what's not working is not working. And the only way to step into something else or something different or something new, because I know it's new and I know it's different, is I'm going to have to fully let go. And I guess as long as my immediate financial security needs were met, like what I needed to survive was met, I had to create space for myself. So I obviously had time with my children and family and being a single mom. And then I had time where I was working. I was working in a spiritual center in Surface Paradise, doing aura readings and a bit of admin and marketing and helping their business. And I was just floating. but I was also healing massively. So I had to just surrender. And as long as my needs were met, surrendered to the process and committed to myself, like committed to the future. Because I remember, in the early stages of the separation with my ex, I was very distraught on the kitchen floor. And I was like, I didn't know how I was going to survive, how I was going to raise the kids on my own. I knew I could, but I was going through a bit of an emotional time and I didn't want it to negatively impact them in any way. So I guess it was that little glimmer of hope that said to me, Abby, you'll never be here again. Like, just trust the process. Just trust. Trust is the biggest asset that we can ever have. And I think when you can trust that everything is going to work out for you, and we actually let go of control and surrender to what is meant to be, things become different. Like your decision making process starts to change. Like it's not a flick of the switch, like letting go of control, trust and surrender. They're huge things to do. And it's not just you wake up one day and you're suddenly not in control or you're suddenly letting go or you're surrendering. Like it's an unraveling to get there. But the the most important element is trust. Like, do you trust? Do you trust in your own abilities? Do you trust in the universe's guidance? Do you trust that everything is happening exactly as it's meant to? If it could be any other way, it would. Can you let go of the outcome and just trust in the now moment that you're going to make the decisions for your life and for your business that are the absolute best possible decisions that you can make in this moment? And you're always divinely guided. And it's not as a like bypassing, like I don't need to make any decisions, but it's like even if you make the wrong decision, it wasn't wrong. You made that decision because you had to go that direction to learn that lesson. So on the other side of it, you then activated the potential within you that if you had have made the right decision, you probably never would have activated. So it's the journey that is the most important because the journey is where you're refined in that process. So, trusting in the journey, trusting in life, and trusting in yourself and in those decisions. So, you might be faced with all these different options or choices. And it's like, I always say to people is if you don't know, don't do anything. If you don't know, take space. You need space because these little intuitive hits and downloads, they don't come when you're busy and frantic. They come in space. You need spaciousness. Growth happens in the spaciousness. Because when you create that space, it's like you are not your thoughts. You're the space between your thoughts. And the space between your thoughts is creation. And if you think how the universe thought itself into existence, right? Creation is but first a thought. You look around in your room, everything that was created in your room, man-made, was created but first from a thought, right? But we need to quiet the mind and create the space to allow those creations to come through. So it's understanding your own thought processes. It's like, because I went through a whole experience of learning meditation and quietening the mind. And sometimes we do these things because we're so far on the opposite end of things, you need to spend every day meditating for an hour, right? That's what I would do until that then attuned me to my thought processes and attuned me to what was my thought and what was not my thought. I can tell now if a thought comes in, whether it's mine, someone else's, or collective, or, it's like when you learn yourself and your interpretation through the space is when you can then learn the language of the universe. Right? So it was through those meditative practices that I could then understand myself, my soul, and universe. So now, like if I get a thought, right? If it's an external, right, thought coming in, collective consciousness, right, coming in saying, Abby, Abby's shit, or it's like usually negative, right? I can feel it. It like comes at the side of my head, and I can tell, like I can just feel it, and that's how I know it's not mine. And then when it's like a download from universal source, it's like an energy that I can feel just comes through. It's like comes down. Right. So it's like the collective comes at me from the side, but universe comes down in my crown. But then if it's like my own and a creation, it'll come like up and through my body. Like I'll feel like it's so, and I think when we have these little practices that we do for ourselves, like that's just me, right? But not everyone is going to resonate with that. And it's when you give yourself the space and the time and you've got to be able to play and dance with yourself, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your body, with your energy, so that you can then start to interpret it. So, what I found is when I learned that the collective comes at me from the side, and like these thoughts are coming into my head, and they can be positive or negative, it doesn't matter. But it's like I can be like, oh, cool, this is like I know where that is, and I don't attach to it. I don't attach to any of it. It's just, it's then, moving beyond that. And it's like, what are we going to take the action on? Because you can have all these collective thoughts, you can have all these downloads coming in, or all these creations rising in you. How do you know when to take the action, though? But I think it's like people just have all of this noise, and we've actually just got to, in the trust and surrender, create the space for ourselves so we can start to decipher some of this noise and what's important, what's not important, what are we working on, and how are we going to move through this decision making process, choose where we, because again, remember, energy, the most valuable resource on the planet is your human energy. So when you're deciphering all of these noise, that takes energy. So, what's worth your energy? Is it worth your energy to listen to the collective noise coming at you that's probably saying not nice things? Or do we want to create some protection around that and just focus on your own creations and, what the universe wants to share with you? Right. So, this is where it's like, where are you spending your time and your energy? Where are you focusing it? So when we're dealing with all of these energies and these ideas and these downloads, and then there's some people that will get a download and take action. And then there was some people that'll get a download and they'll just like, oh, I'm not ready, or this or that, and park it. Right? Everyone's at different stages, but the difference between taking the action and not taking the action is actually your frequency. It's your frequency. So it's not, everyone's so focused on, I've got to be high vibe. I've got to be high vibe. I've got to have a high frequency. I've got to be, and it's like this toxic positivity. And it's like, no, I don't see things necessarily that way. I just see if you look at frequency, if you look at the waves in frequency and like So essentially one wave in the frequency. I teach this in my immersions, but it's like time versus frequency, right? So we've got the X and the Y axes, and it's time and frequency. And it's like the higher your frequency, the faster time goes. The fast we move through the emotional cycles, the lower the frequency, the longer it takes, you know? So it's like, when you first sort of step into personal development and it like, something happens and it takes you like 4 days to move through the emotion of it. And then, once you've been doing a lot of personal development, spiritual development, you find that a similar thing could happen. And it's like, oh, wow, I got over that so quickly. It was like half a day, right? You've gone through the emotional cycle quicker, not because you're high vibe, but because the baseline of your frequency is higher, right? So we've got a baseline, and the lower end of the spectrum is like apathy, fear, sadness, depression. The higher end is peace, joy, love, enlightenment, right? So we're not aiming to be in peace, joy, enlightenment 100% of the time, right? We will, spike to that and drop as well. You could still drop, like everyone still has all of the emotions, like no one's immune, but it's like, where is your baseline? So when you look at emotional regulation and you look at frequency, you want to have a baseline that is a bit higher, because you're going to have more waves in your frequency. So you're going to get more downloads, right? And the higher frequency you are, the more likely you are to take action on those downloads. Right? So this is where a lot of people with high vibration, high frequency, they get so many downloads. And I think for these people, it's like deciphering what's for you. Because when you're high vibe, high frequency, very gifted and talented, and you're in that space, you're like tuned in and you're getting all the downloads. But it's like there are some that are for you and some that are for others, and we have to decipher them. But people that are in the lower end of the spectrum with a lower baseline, it takes them longer to get through an emotional cycle because they need that time to implement. Because it'll take like a couple of days and they've got to move through the emotions. But if you're sitting in apathy or depression or sadness, you're less likely to take the action, because you won't feel good enough, you won't feel deserving, you won't feel that like that there's all these other things at play. Right. So this is why, the healing is so important, to then take the action, right? This is why we mix personal development, spiritual development, so you can take the action in your business. Strategy is 100% part of the puzzle, but mindset, energy, and personal growth is also part of it too. And a lot of people can't action that strategy because they don't have the confidence or the self-worth to do so. So this is why a lot of people experience growth in their business, because they've looked at their mindset or because they've looked at their personal development. But now it's like, let's take it one step further and like use this to increase our frequency, to then catapult our legacy and our business to exponential heights, because it's possible. Because when we reach these heights, success is different. It's like you can't buy this. You can't buy this type of success, because when you're tapped into the divine wealth of your unique essence and you show up for your business from that space, the growth can be exponential. The growth can be overnight. Some opportunities will land and present themselves that feel out of this world. Or you'll be searching for an answer on something, and it will just land out of nowhere. It's like God gives you the answer. And it's like you can have overnight success or you can have overnight, money just lands from nowhere. Things just happen that you can't explain. And it's no amount of strategy alone can get you that. And this is why we mix the strategy, the energy, the emotional regulation, like it's all of it. This is where like I see so a lot of coaches talking about, your content and being magnetic and just naturally attracting and tapping into the manifestation and blah, 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 all of that. And it's like, yeah, it's that on steroids. But it doesn't happen because you seek it. It doesn't happen because you're looking for it or because you're trying to achieve it. It happens because you just become it, because you become your legacy. You become the conduit for the change that wants to be. Like you are paving the way for the future generations in your own unique way, not how I do it, not how that other coach online does it, or, everyone's got their own unique blueprint. Everyone's here for different things. Some people are communicators, some people are activators, some people are initiators, some people are healers, some people are, wake up the masses, or some people are just this small group of ascension path. I look at the ascension model and everyone's at different stages and different level, and it's all needed, all of it. There's no one soul or one mission that's better than anyone else's. It's all needed. It's all part of it. So it's uncovering like what is your unique soul blueprint? What are you here for? You're here to wake up the masses? How? Through your language, your communication, through your writing? Great. Your gift is your gift to the world. Your gift, the thing that you're so good at, is part of it. It's not just, selling a product or service because we know it, because we learnt it. Yes, skills and knowledge is part of it, but your gift isn't it. It's part of it. So, how do we wrap everything that you've learned over the years, all your skills, all your knowledge, all your IP, wrap that around your gift, the thing that is so special to you, so innate to you? Like you never learned it, it was never taught to you, it just naturally happens. And when you're in this gift, time stands still. That's how you know. Time stands still. It's like that cartoon movie called Soul, and you know how they go up into the cloud or into the soul space and like time just disappears. That's your gift. When that happens, you're bending time. So then we throw in your passions as well. What you're passionate about, what drives you to get up in the morning. Because without that passion, like the passion is what's going to get you through the tough times in business. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that their unique blueprint, their unique soul mission, their gifts to the world, there's this misconception that if I make money off of my gift, like it's a gift from God, I can't make money off of it. I need to do it for free. No, we need resources because it takes a lot of money to dismantle what is currently in existence. I had a client importing a med bed and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? These things cost money. So we need resources. So I believe God allows us to charge for this so we can get the resources and do the thing. Imagine what the world would be like if really good humans had lots and lots of money. So you can charge for your gifts because it's God's money, it's God's gift. God's wealth flows to us in avalanches of abundance. It's the difference between living money and dead money. So I was even on a call with one of my clients the other day, and I was going through this extraction process, connecting with her mission and her legacy and her gifts and her talents and like how are we going to monetize this? And at the end of the session, she was just so lit up, excited, like just a newfound sense of purpose. And she was like, Abby, I didn't even know I could do that. I didn't even know that was possible. And this is why I say, like, when people work with me, I'm not telling you what to do, or I'm not like, it's like, even in the soul streams, I'm not telling you what to do, or I go through an extraction process. And my beautiful gift is the psychic vision of the new earth paradigm. I can see these innovations and just it just comes to me. And I'm like, what about this? Like, you need to do this, or this is something that you can focus on. And like, and it might not be the end result, but it's definitely a stepping stone for sure. And yeah, by the end of it, we have a product that she can sell so she can step out of that swapping time for money, employment, dead world. So when I say, and let me just explain the dead world a little bit, because part of my legacy was learning the dead speak, was learning the dead world. And it's like the dead world is the world of commerce in the public sector, right? This is where we're slaves. This is where we're governed, we're slaved, we're taxed, fees, charges, levies, licenses. It's dead money. This is where I call it, the devil's playground is the public sector. It was created for commerce to profit, right? Everything is created for profit. And the dead world is dead money. It's trafficking the persons, the Seneca Trust. We're the cattle, right? It's a corpse, a corporation being traded for profit. And in this public commerce space is where we're slaves and we're in employment contracts, swapping time for money, and it's grim. Like how do we get out of that? And I feel that when you're transitioning from dead money to alive money, it's like if you look at currency, our currency in our economy, it's all created by debt. So the government issues bonds backed by our securities to create the currency. The currency then its loan is given to the bank to loan. And we live in a debt-based economy. All of our currency is backed by debt, dead money. It's not backed by credit. It's not backed by gold or silver. It's the dead world. So when we're shifting into alive money, this is coming back to God's money. It's coming to God's creations through humanity. It's no longer operating in the public. It's moving to the private, and it's creating missions and purposes that are not for profit, that are for people, people focused humanitarian. It's about new paradigm. It's about, the health and well-being of all, the good of all. And when you move into this alive money and recognize that your energy is what is backing the currency in the dead world, and you shift that to focus in the private spaces, it's God's kingdom. We're creating this wealth for the good of humanity, and where it's kind of like you go through a redemption space where, you know, your debts can be redeemed and discharged, and your natural born credit can be realized. And then what we create in the world is for the good of humanity. And our human energy is used to benefit all, not just the one percenters who want to accumulate the world's entire wealth for themselves. So we then start investing our energy into the living, into people, into humanity. And the byproduct of that is then I guess you could say the money that then lands for you, I feel like it's cleaner, it's purified, it's free of obligations, and it can then go towards more better things in the world. So yeah, I see like that transition can be huge for some people. It's a lot of unlearning and relearning. And I think if you're afraid of that, I always say if you're in fear, fear is the absence of knowledge. So there's some things to learn. And the only way you're going to overcome that fear is by learning those things and then taking action on it. I see a lot of people that cross that bridge from 3D to 5D, 3D business to 5D business, 3D wealth to 5D wealth. Like a lot of people get stuck on the bridge because they think there's a big bad troll that's going to like attack them or send them to jail or, naughty little boy or girl, you're doing the wrong thing. And I think this is where we need to remember, the most important day of your life was the day that you were born. The second most important day of your life is the day that you learned why. And it's that why that completely obliterates the troll because you're not asking that troll permission to walk that bridge. God's giving you permission to walk that bridge. You just need to realize that. And I think the more that I traversed through my own experiences, I get to be that permission piece for others. I'm still here. I'm still gone. We're still doing this. We got awesome projects in the making. Like there's amazing things happening. And it's because I'm anchored to my legacy and I know what I'm here for. I know who I am and who I am not. And I know what I'm here to create and excites me. So when you feel that fear, like feel the fear, do it anyway. Like you've got to tap into that excitement. You've got to tap into that passion, that joy. That's what's going to get you to the other side. Yeah. So walking the walk and doing the thing, the living in the dead, man, what a dive today. But I guess my intention for this episode really is to just ignite that little spark. Ignite that spark inside of you that knows you're here for more. Because that's the spark that's going to guide you. And when you can anchor to that and you can feel it and you can like tangibly feel that in your body and then make decisions from that place rather than the fear response, that's when things are going to change. Doesn't mean the fear's not going to be there. Things come up and we're still human. What do they say? Face everything and rise. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Like those things are true. People don't say that for no reason, but to feel it and do it anyway, that takes courage. And you get the courage from the flame. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode, diving into all the things legacy, cosmic currency, divine wealth. This is my jam. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to follow along for more, you can join me in my Untethered Facebook group. And yeah, I hope you have a beautiful day and go and spread that light and that flame out into the world. Big love.